What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're looking at Dragonball Super and some changes that Bandai are making to the Dragonball Super card game. They put out a little memo today to everybody, basically saying, look, Set 5 is coming. We're going to be getting Wish Leaders, which will probably be getting their own video in a few days' time. And we are changing the game, and we are making it better for you guys, which as far as I'm concerned, is a good thing. They said that Set 5 releases in November, marking the start of a new block. We have up to now been in the overround block, we're moving into a new one. It also has different release timing for starter decks and booster packs. Two types of starter decks will be available on November the 2nd, while booster packs and a special pack will be released on November the 9th, and a gift box on November the 23rd. So it's kind of cool that starter decks are coming out a week before boosters. You know, might help the money just a little bit. Events like starter-only tournaments and release tournaments will provide new and exciting ways to participate. We hope you'll look forward to it. Yeah, that's fine. Nothing terribly interesting there. What is interesting is they're basically saying, look, we know the game is too fast. We don't like how fast it is, or at least we don't like how many of you are complaining. So we're making changes. So they've listed a couple things they're trying to change. Number one, game speed, kill turns. Kill turns refers to the turn in which you win the game. Following the release of Series 1, by observing play at events, we realised that players were playing more carefully and with far more tactical deliberation than we had anticipated. We here on the development team were raised on Japanese card games, and it seems there may be a slight difference between our play preferences and strategic thought processes compared to that of the player base, which was predominantly raised on Western card games. Feedback from players around the time Series 1 was released tended to centre around the long length of games, and we heard a fair bit in particular about tournaments going longer than expected. We took this into consideration, developing aggressive cards for Series 3 and the overround block with the intent of reducing the number of turns required to win, the kill turn. But experienced players quickly grew used to the speedier pace, and the amount of time required per game gradually shortened in comparison to Series 1, resulting in an even greater reduction in overall playtime. Playtime is not our only concern in game design, of course. However, we think the changes described above are what resulted in Series 3 speed outstripping our expectations. We receive feedback from players around the world every day, both directly at tournaments and online. You've told us about your experiences playing the game, your thoughts on the environment, and what you want to see going forward. We're listening to all of it. Recently, we've been receiving a particularly large amount of feedback about game speed, and looking at actual tournaments, we've seen more than a few games end extremely quickly. We don't think there's anything wrong with aggro decks being able to win quickly, but Series 5 features defensive cards and leader cards with new effects that attempt to bring the overall game speed to a more reasonable pace. This is awesome, because it means that Bandai are listening. It means that they are trying to improve the game, and you know what? It might not work, but they are trying and they are listening. We can't ask too much more of that. Of course, there is a situation here where they're like, it's too slow, let's introduce some aggro decks. It's too fast, let's slow down some of these decks. So maybe we're getting a little bit circular here, but we will have to see how this plays out. Now they give an example of a new defensive effect you'll find. During your opponent's turn, if your card leader is a particular colour and this card is in rest mode, your opponent's cards can't attack leader cards, and this card gets minus 5,000 power. So you nerf one of your cards, but you use it so your opponent can't attack your leader, which means they can't whittle down your life, which means you are guaranteed an extra turn in order to actually be able to set up with a more in-depth, more long-term strategy. Now, they do mention that Series 5 have cards of effect like these in every colour, which is good. And they are trying to return the game speed to a more appropriate level without restricting existing cards. This is good, but we don't know how this is going to work. Is this going to be on a one-cost card, so you can potentially play 4 of them, drop one every turn for the first 4 turns, and then have 4 free turns to set up? Maybe. Is it going to be on a 4 or 5 cost, making it basically worthless? I would assume not, but we're going to really have to wait and see how that works out. They talk about deck archetypes. They say the environment up to Series 4 saw aggro decks dominating, something we suspect the fast turn kill was responsible for. We think delaying the kill turn will allow more deck archetypes to compete. We're rebuilding the kind of deck archetypes players can construct from the ground up, with the hope that this will result in a diverse play environment with even more variety than before. I, for one, am crossing my fingers that this works. Series 5 introduces new deck archetypes and rebalances the old ones. We're designing Series 6 to continue this trend, and we'll be establishing even more archetypes in Series 6. So this isn't a flash in the pan. This is a long-term, we are working on this through the whole block. We are working on more defensive strategies, more archetypes. Obviously, with Set 5 starting to be leaked on Friday, you know I'll be here with the videos. They're now designing Set 6 and testing it and all of that. I mean, they're probably well into the testing, to be honest with you. And they really are trying to slow the game down, make it a bit more defensive. They're not getting rid of aggro decks. They're just trying to make sure we've got other options. They also talk about interactivity. Up to this point, we haven't designed many effects that can be played instantly to counter or respond to your opponent's actions for the following reasons. One, they have the potential to slow down the game, and we know that that was something they were trying to avoid. They said that above. Two, related to the above, we wanted to convey the feeling of Dragon Ball's fierce and fast-paced battles. I mean, can anyone really say that the Goku Frieza fight was fast-paced? Just putting that out there. And three, new players may get the impression that the game is difficult to play if counter or reactive cards become commonplace. I do see that argument. I get it. But I think we need to have slightly more faith in players, to be honest with you. However, we've heard from the player base at large is that you want more interactivity in the game. With that in mind, we've created cards in Series 5 with effects that do not resolve immediately, but by paying specified costs allow you to indirectly respond to your opponent's actions. Now, they give some examples, and obviously we'll talk through these in a second, but one really important thing to note here, we don't know which cards these are on. We don't know the cost of the card where this is featuring. We don't know if the card is going to be good other than this, so we really do need to wait until these cards start leaking, and given that they leak a colour at a time, and given that they're going to start leaking next Friday, we won't have to wait long. We will see the kind of cards they're using. So, there's an Activate main 2 cost. Your opponent has 4 or more battle cards in play. Choose all of yours and your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 4 or less, ignoring barrier, and KO them. Just sweep the whole board of battle cards costing 4 or less. Which, of course, means that you are trying to make sure people are playing more of these bigger, bulkier 5 and above cost, and fewer of these little 1, 2, 3, and 4 cost cards. And heck, if we look at a fairly standard, pretty good Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku list, we see Adoptive Father Son Gohan, 1 cost, Bardock the Progenitor, 1 cost, Master Roshi Forged of Will, 1 cost, Caring Mother Videl, 2 cost. So actually here, this is the kind of skill that could really wipe some decks out. There's also a new skill, 2 cost. Place this card in your drop area. If your opponent placed a card in their energy using a skill during this game, choose one of your opponent's energy and place it in its owner's drop area. You punish your opponent for accelerating energy using their skills. Clearly, this is to stop Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku, who does accelerate energy using his skill, but this is, as some people have pointed out, this will catch other cards. So it really is good. I like it. I like that they're trying to counter the best decks, but it is going to catch some more kind of roguey decks, which maybe isn't exactly their intention. Bandai go on to say these aren't interactive cards per se, but by attaching cost to the activation of these effects, players will be forced to take risks by paying the cost, instead of simply resolving effects without interference. Our intent is to maintain the elements we mentioned earlier, while still printing cards to meet our players' needs going forward. Woo, that ended up taking a little longer than expected. Well, those explanations out of the way, let's talk about the design concepts for Series 5. Now, we're not going to go into a great amount of detail in this video. This really does deserve its own video, and I will be coming with that over the weekend. I'm very excited to talk about it. But I couldn't not mention Wish leader cards. Up until now, all of the leaders have had Awaken. When you have X amount of life remaining, you either draw cards or flip over energy and you awaken. That's how it works. With Wish, however, what you have to do is collect Dragon Balls. That's right. So if we look at the example of the Shenron card here, we've got Dragon Ball, which is the front of the card, can't attack. The activate says, switch this card to rest mode, choose up to 2 Dragon Ball cards from your deck or life, and add them to your hand. Super important so that your Dragon Balls don't end up in your life and then you wouldn't be able to play it. When there are 7 Dragon Ball cards in your drop area, choose up to 1 Desire card from your drop area, and add it to your hand and flip this card over, and then you've got Shenron. And then Shenron, I'm going to be honest with you, it's looking pretty beastly. Now it can't attack. It can defend, that's why it's got a power, but it can't attack. Once per turn, you can either draw a card, choose a Desire card in your hand with an energy cost less than or equal to your current energy, an activated skill, or remove 7 Dragon Ball cards in your drop area from the game, and then you get to choose one of your battle cards. It gains 10,000 power and triple attack, and then you flip this card over. So there is an insane ability, but once you use it, that's it. It's gone for the game. I like this. There are other Wish leaders. We're going to talk about these properly in the coming weeks, but I thought it had to be mentioned here. So this is weird, right? Because all of a sudden, you're not going to be trying to whittle down your life to awaken as soon as possible. You're actually going to want to not take any damage to your life, because you just need to get your Dragon Balls in the drop, and then as soon as they're in the drop, you can then awaken. Although it's not actually awakening, it's wishing. And then you're off and rolling. I like this, ladies and gentlemen. I like it. But I want to know if you like it. What do you think about Bandai's changes to the game? Do you like these cards that they've been hinting to us, telling us the skills but not showing us the card properly? Do you like this new Wish mechanic? Are you going to miss Awaken? No word on whether all the leaders are going to have Wish or there's going to be a mixture in set 5. We'll have to wait and see. Are you excited by these new changes, or do you think they're going to inadvertently end up ruining the game? Let me know, ladies and gentlemen. Go nuts, but do remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, and then, of course, by far the most important thing, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.